Hey everybody, it's me, Brian J. Cano, and I'm here today to teach you how to play the 3 pillars, the Paranormal Card Game. Now, I know a lot of you out there love the paranormal. You eat it, you sleep it, you drink it, you go on investigations, you go to conventions, you watch the shows. Well now, you can play it. Now, of course, the game comes with an instruction booklet that tells you how to play, but as with any game, it's easier if somebody shows you, and that's what I'm going to do today. Now, the object of the 3 pillars is to be the player that has the most points in evidence cards at the end of the game. Game ends when one player has investigated all 3 haunted locations. Let's show you the cards. First, you have the pillar cards. There are 3 pillar cards. They are the scientist, the skeptic, and the psychic. 3 different viewpoints to make a more well-rounded investigation. Now, take note, each of these cards is double-sided, so you have a choice of which pillar you wish to use. Each pillar has a special ability that helps them during the game. You're going to get to use each pillar only once at one haunted location. Once you use your scientist on one case, that's it. He's out for the rest of the game. Next, we have the case deck. Cases are the actual places that you're going to be investigating during the game. Now here's the anatomy of a case card. Title tells you where you're going, in this case, Lizzie Borden house. This number here is the evidence number. This tells you how much evidence you have to play at that location in order to close the case there. And at the bottom, there's game text. Game text on a case card is active while you are at that case, and only while you're at that case. The small number here is called the inconclusive number, but I'll get back to that later. Now, during each investigation, you're going to want to play evidence cards directly to the site. Evidence cards look like this. They range in value from 1 to 5. 1 being the lowly EMF fluctuation, all the way on up to the full-bodied apparition. Now, evidence cards are played directly to a case. You're trying to play enough evidence cards at the location in order to satisfy the evidence number and close that case so you can move on to the next case. Now, of course, if it was just a game about playing number cards, it wouldn't be very challenging. So, while you're playing evidence cards, I'm going to be trying to stop you with misfortune cards. Misfortune cards look like this. They have a red skull icon in the corner. Essentially, a red card is a stop. You are stopped until you fix that misfortune. Things like off the case, broken equipment, or possession. While you're under a misfortune, you cannot continue the case until you clear that misfortune. But that's okay, you came prepared with preparedness cards. Preparedness cards have a green icon in the corner, and there's a corresponding preparedness card for each misfortune. So, if you're off the case, that's okay. You're back on the case. If you have broken equipment, no problem. You brought extra equipment. What do you think takes care of possession? You got it. Exorcism. Once you've cleared your misfortune, you're considered to be back on the case, and you may continue playing evidence cards on your next turn. Now there's another card type called the protection card. Protection cards have a blue icon in the corner, and they're very powerful. When they play on your side of the table, and they're good for the rest of the game. So for instance, if you have the demonologist out, he protects you from getting possessed. Each protection card takes care of one specific type of misfortune, and it is good for all those misfortunes, no matter how many are played. So, if you got the ziggity with you, you don't have to worry about getting exorcisms, because he's got you covered. Back and forth it goes. I play misfortunes, you clear it up with preparedness cards. We try to play evidence on our own cases, trying to get through all 3 cases and be the winner. Now, that might almost be too easy, so that's where the event deck comes in. The event deck represents the paranormal community outside of your teams. This is everybody else. So it could be good, it could be bad, it could be indifferent, you never know. For instance, maybe you use a trigger object, helps out with your investigation, or clairvoyance, you use some psychic abilities to help you out, or discredit. You lose all your evidence and you've got to start all over again. The event cards introduce an element of chance into the game, so you never know what will happen when you draw one, so be careful when you do. Layout should look like this. You have your investigation deck on one side, your event, case, and casebook decks on the other side. Set up 3 case cards in the middle. The first case can be revealed immediately. That becomes case number 1. Okay, now that I've taken you through the basic card types, let's take you through a sample turn. First, let's shuffle the cards. Make sure you get a good shuffle. I can't be held responsible for bad draws when you guys play. Now, if you'll notice on a lot of the cards, there is a little text at the bottom of the cards, quotes and other things. This is what's known as flavor text. Just little factoids to give a little bit of depth to the information that we're giving. It's sometimes for fun, sometimes for education. We feel if we can sneak a little learning into a game, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Okay. Now, hand size 6 cards. Deal out 6 cards to each player. Okay, now that we have our hands, I'll go first to demonstrate how a turn works. You've got to assign a pillar to a case. That's selecting one of the character cards and putting them at the location. All right, things to consider when selecting your pillar. Look at their game text, see if there's something relevant that you want to try with the cards that you were dealt. Most importantly, look at the location you're going to. If the case card has some game text that is specific to a specific pillar type, for instance, Lizzie Borden house. If a psychic is assigned here, their hand size is reduced by 1. So for this first case, I'm probably not going to pick either of my 2 psychics. I'm going to send Brian. Brian's special ability is Former Skeptic. Once per case, may cancel any event as it is drawn. It's a pretty solid way to start, so okay. Now that I've assigned my pillar, the first thing that happens on any case, you have to draw an event card. Always. You don't have to do it every turn, but you do it the first turn on any new case. All right, let's see what happens. Baseline sweep. Plays on current case until it is closed. All players must play with their hands revealed. Okay, no big deal. After the event card is played and resolved, you may take your turn. A turn consists of 2 parts, drawing a card and either playing a card or discarding a card. So essentially, it's 1 up, 1 down, 1 up, 1 down. So I'll take a card. Now the space directly in front of you on the table is considered to be your case lock. This is where all the misfortune and preparedness cards will play over the course of a case. These cards stack on top of each other to form a pile. The only cards that don't go in there are protection cards and evidence cards. Okay, now that I've drawn my card, I have to play a card. Now, Brian is at the Lizzie Borden house, but he's not inside yet. No evidence can be played until he's actually on the investigation yet. He's wandering around outside going, hey, Leanne, can I come in? Is anybody home? I've got all my stuff out here, I want to investigate. So, the first thing you need to do to start your investigation is play an on the case card. On the case says you may begin submitting evidence. Once that's down, the investigation is on. You can start playing evidence cards on your very next turn. Now it's your turn. Go through those same steps. Assign a pillar, draw and resolve your event card, start your turn by drawing a card from the investigation deck and playing one. If you can't play one, you must discard one. Now on my turn, I have some choices. What's the strategy going to be? I've got some red cards, I've got some green cards, I've got some evidence cards. How's it going to go? I could play some evidence to my case to get that case started. Or I could play some misfortune cards on you to stall your investigation, but all right, I see you haven't started yet, so I'll save that for later. I am going to play an electronic voice phenomenon at the Lizzie Borden house. It's worth 3. I'm trying to get to 12, so I'm off to a good start. Back to you. It's your turn. Remember, draw a card and then play or discard a card. Even if you have a card in your hand that you feel, hey, I can use this right now, don't forget to draw a card because you might get something better with that draw. Now, what happens when you have enough evidence to close a case? Let's take you through that. Now, here at the Lizzie Borden house, I have 10 points of evidence showing. I need 12. On this turn, I'm going to play a 3. You do not have to get the evidence by exact count. Now remember, this is a game about points. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. So if we each got exact counts, you'd end up with a lot of ties, and that's no fun at all. So if you can, try to go over. But the minute you equal to or have a greater amount than the evidence number, the case is closed, and you cannot play any more evidence to that case. I now have 13 points of evidence, satisfying the 12 I needed. Here's the steps to close a case. Square up your evidence and place it underneath your pillar. That pillar is now considered inactive, and its game text can no longer be used. Brian's off processing that data right now. Then you take your case log, all those preparedness and misfortune cards that stacked during the case, and you recycle it into the discard pile. Those assets are now back in the game for everyone to use. Then, as a reward for finishing your case, you get a casebook card. They're helper cards. They give you abilities much like pillar abilities that help you with your future cases. Casebook cards play on your side of the table immediately when they're drawn and are in effect for you and only you for the rest of the game. Here's one thing to keep in mind. If I finish the case before you do, it's okay. It does not stop your investigation. Just because I finished my investigation of the Lizzie Borden house doesn't mean they're locking the doors or tearing the building down. I'm just going to move to the next case before you. You will stay here, finish your case, and then when you're done, you will move to the next one. When it's time to go to your next case, it's back to the top of the order. Reveal your next case, check out any game text, consider the evidence number, assign your pillar, draw an event card and resolve, and continue play as normal. Now, I might get stuck at the second case, and you'll breeze through the second case, go to the third case, and then go on to win the game. You never know what's going to happen, but each case is concurrent but independent. Now, there may be times where you find yourself having a hard time completing a case. Not to worry. The small number next to the evidence number is what's known as the inconclusive number. Sometimes on a case, you just don't get the cards you need, or you're stuck under a misfortune. And this happens in actual investigating too. Sometimes you go and nothing happens. If you've already played evidence cards equal to or greater than the value of the inconclusive number, you're allowed to suspend the case and move on. Now the case will remain open, and you will have to come back and complete it in order to finish the game. The benefits to suspending a case and going inconclusive is that you get to dump your case log and any misfortunes that are hampering you. The downside? You have to dump your hand, and at the completion of this case, you will not be eligible for a casebook card. Draw yourself a new hand, and then your turn is over. It's a game about trying to get the most points in evidence, not about who can do it the fastest. When one player finishes the third case, that triggers the final turn. Their opponent gets one final turn, last licks, to try to play as many points as they can to catch up before the game ends. After that final turn has been played, this is what you do. All players dump their hands, dump their case logs, and the pillars hand in their evidence. So take all that evidence, even from unfinished cases, and count it up. It becomes a game about points. That's why it was so important for you to go over on as many cases as you can. Once you've added up all your cards, factoring in bonus points from events and casebook cards, whoever has the most points in evidence is the winner. Congratulations! You've just played your first game of the Three Pillars, a paranormal card game. Check back soon for videos on our expansion sets, and if you're having questions or problems about specific cards or card timing rules, do check elsewhere on this website for the FAQ documents. It's divided up by set, and there's also a single player variant rules on the website. So if you just want to get in a quick practice game, you can do that too. So that's me, I'm Brian J. Cano, this is the Three Pillars, and I'll see you guys next time. Get on the case.